we have this question: what should sprinters do right after season and then summer? Well, I would suggest that you go to as many meets as possible over the summer, especially if you're new. You're 15, so I would suggest going to as many meets as possible through the summer. Okay. Then after that, take 2 weeks, 3 weeks off, go with your family, do fun stuff, whatever. And then when you come back, you have you know, conditioning. So this is gonna be you're 15, so you're in high school. So, you know, we'll call it October, January, February, March, April, May, June, July, August, September, or even September to October, you do conditioning. What do I mean by conditioning is not jogging. Okay, we're not going out for runs. Out for long runs. Okay, what we will do though is 2 mile stride, straight, walk, jog, turns. Okay. A stride is just a stride equals a sprint at low percentage, right? Sprint at low percent. Should I train over summer like I was training in season, sort of intended to continue peaking max intensity since I'm competing every week? Yes. Yes, you should be focused on speed work, right? You still want to be in this part of the season, okay? We want to work so much more speed development. Okay. Because what you work on when you work on speed is actually brain changes, right? You're changing your brain to understand what speed means through, right, receptors and grooves that we form inside our brain. Like when you learn a new language, you get grooves and patterns for that language. It's the same with speed. When you train for speed, your brain physically changes to understand what it's doing. And so if you are able to train over the summer, you get way more time changing your brain for the positive, right? It's just like more time practicing Spanish is going to help improve your Spanish. But you can't do it all the time. You definitely need these phases of the season here. Okay. I hope that made a little bit of sense. I'm just going off the top here. This isn't like, does that make sense, J Money? You could do things like hills. Okay. Great time, as I said, for what color do we want to do here? Weight room. You could spend much time getting strong, right? Strength. This is about strength. Okay. This is about speed. This is a little bit of a blend, right? This is about speed, endurance. You're also going to touch a little bit on speed as well in this time too, and you'll get some strength in as well. Okay, maybe strength is the wrong word. Maybe actually power is the correct word. This is where you build power. Here's where we focus on strength more. Okay. So as you plan your workouts, you should join the speed lab and just see what's in there. But as you plan your workouts, right, we'll call this We want to stay in this range. Maybe we get to 3,200 meters. And means sprinting. Now, obviously, you're not going to sprint a mile or definitely not a 2 mile. But what you're going to do is do things like this, or you do 150s, walk 50, 150, things like that, where you can add up the total to 1,600 meters or 2,400 meters. So I don't know how many 150s that is. I mean, 10 150s would be 1,500 meters. So that works, But that's this time, September to October. Excuse me. Yeah, it starts around here and it goes all the way through. We'll call it December, around December. Okay, so from December to, depends on what goal you have and when you want to peak. We'll say to February about. Okay, we can get away with some 300s, something like that, 250s, plyos, sleds, hills, getting into the grind. Okay, the weight room shifts to power, shifts away from strength to power, 5x5, 3x5, things like that. Okay, and then what do we want to work here? We'll call it that would be 1,500 meters. So you can get away with 1,000 meters of total volume sprinting. Again, this is just off the top of my head. I'm sure when I look back at this, I'm going to say, "Why did you say that? That's not the way to do it. I would do it this way, whoop de whoop." But this is kind of how it goes, right? So the total volume sprinting could be something like 1,000 meters, right? Which might be 3 times 300. But if you're going to do it, then they're at 90%. They're at a highish percentage. Okay, that's another thing around this area. It's going to be 75% to 90% max speed, right? When you're working in this area, you're going to be 70 to 80% max speed. And then when you move up the ladder, the peak season, these are 95, 100% max speed, right? So the total volume sprinting might be 1,000 meters to, what would we call that? Maybe around 2,000 meters. We'll say 2,400, but we shouldn't be, that's kind of a lot. We'll say 2,000 meters. We shouldn't be touching these distances anymore as we move up this pyramid, because when we get to speed development, right, we're bringing everything down. So we're talking 300 meters total volume to 1,000 meters, but nothing really more than that. So that means percentage effort goes up, reps come down. Okay. But also that means rest goes up a lot, 12 to 15 minutes rest, 20 minutes rest, that kind of thing, because I want them to be super fast. If you want live, personalized, frame by frame coaching, click the link below.